Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Mitch, and on today's show we chat to Secret Scott, as I'm now calling him, who's the manager at Secret Spot.
Scott from Secret Spot.
Secret Scott from Secret Spot in Scarborough. And we should probably start off with a huge thank you to Secret Spot for letting us use the shop, because that's also where we filmed with John Pease from True North Surf Podcast.
You fucking idiot. I don't know if that's... No, North Swell Podcast. You're still doing it, aren't you?
That's the one I always catch you
That's
out
what
with.
you were doing the whole time, calling True North Surf Club, True North Surf Podcast. And you were just confusing me the whole time we were up there. This was also the day where we had to get up mega early because of your geographical placement skills.
Well, there was no issue with it. The basis on my assumptions were absolutely right. They were just slightly offset from the start point, which certainly made a huge difference to the length of travel required.
And I seem to remember on the way back from that one, we stopped off on the Yorkshire Moors and had a lovely cup of tea up in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, well, that wasn't based on the fact we both wanted a cup of tea. That was based on the fact that my van was pretty much dry of oil and it was pretty much burning, if you remember.
I don't remember. I just thought we were both tired.
I'm talking rubbish, because so we went back, myself and the Grand Kahuna from Lost Shore. We'd done a northeast trip. We went and met surf schools and clubs. So almost similar thing, same road, and my van was just clean out of oil. We're like, what's that smell? And it was bone dry. And then the bonnet catch wouldn't release. But that's got nothing to do with Secret Scott from Secret Spot.
No, this was really fun actually, because like as you say, we were in there all day, and when we went in, first of all, he seemed alright, nice guy, but like quite serious. And I thought, this is going to be a really serious, like, you know, serious like shop owner sort of thing, like here we go. And once he got started on his stories, absolutely, well, you'll find out in a minute. Yeah.
The Scarborough Swanee into Karachi manager, not owner.
Our manager, yeah.
So
let's go straight into it, and then we can come back and waffle on a bit more afterwards.
Here we go.
Cool. I'm Scotty. I'm the manager at Secret Spot Surf Shop. I've been back here for, I'm trying to think, 2012 I came back, so it's quite a big stint. And I was here 5 years.
Okay.
5 years, a long time ago, probably 30 years ago, yeah.
Okay, and where exactly are we in Secret Spot? Where is this?
This is in Scarborough, North Yorkshire, Scarbados, when the sun's out, it's shining.
And the sun comes out when?
But yeah, I mean, it's been
6 o'clock, I think.
Nothing but rain, has it? Nothing but rain. So we've been in this current location where we are for 32 years. And it was previously behind the Open Air Theatre, which is just across the way there.
Okay.
On a little street called Hanover Road, and it was opened by Roger. And I remember it was that small, the shop. Carve Magazine did a sort of write-up on Scarborough, you know, and they said that they found six people crammed into a telephone box, and later they realised it was the Secret Spot Surf Shop. So, and then obviously Tomo, the head honcho, he came on board a couple of years later, and then they moved to this present location. This used to be the Rose Bowl Cafe. That was the bus station over there.
Ah, right, okay.
And this is where you got a greasy spoon.
I love a greasy spoon as well.
We had the cafe here to start with.
Right.
Nobody could be asked to flip burgers, and you know.
Yeah, fair.
I remember coming in and asking Tomo, I said, "Can I have a sausage sandwich?" And he said, "Don't you want a Kit Kat?"
That's a proper I cannot be asked, isn't it?
So the food thing kind of went down the hill, and then obviously we've expanded, opened up, took it up another floor, and here we are today, all these years later.
Yeah, and let's chat Scarborough surf scene before we chat more about the shop, because it's
present day or
actually from how you know it from when this place started out or when you got involved to how it's evolved.
I mean, I'll just sort of tell you how I started, how I came to be here, whatever. I'm from Doncaster originally.
Donny,
yeah. Glad I'm not there at present. Still got some family there. And I started Well, I remember watching Big Wednesday when I was 10. I think it was, I don't know, it must have been like 11 at night. Everybody gone to bed, my mum and dad and everything. And this film came on Big Wednesday, and I watched it, and I was so captivated by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, shit, I want to do that. I want to go surfing. And then I was lucky enough to travel quite a bit with my family, and first tried it about a year later at West Palm Beach in Florida.
Right, okay.
And we hired these like air mattresses out, with the ropes on.
Yeah.
We all got big titty rub, and oh my God. It was like, there was like, there's obviously mum and dad, and then there was another family with 2 other lads. So there's 6 lads walking around with like severe, belly burn and nipple rash.
Like those, in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, those bodyboards which had like, it was like so you didn't have to put any wax or anything. There was like the groove bits on them. And it looked like you had scales on you afterwards. It was awful.
And then later we went back to Florida when I was 14, and we stayed at Daytona Beach, and I just hired a board and just went in every day.
Right.
And then after that, the last year of school, I think it would have been about 87. Because we were in the I was like one of the youngest in my year, because my birthday's not till August.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we technically left school, but we went back on the school holiday under the instruction that we were, do you know what I mean, to behave, which was a load of bullshit, because we were down the pub every night. And we went to Westwood Ho.
Oh, amazing.
And it was, I think it was Kingsley School of Venture.
Right.
And we were all put into different groups and stuff, and surfing was the first activity,
Okay.
And I went surfing, I think it was the first morning. And, I got stood up because I'd done a tiny bit of it before.
Did you make it clear that you'd done it before, or did you keep it stum?
No, I'd said I had boards out, but I'd never done it to any, do you know what I mean, success or anything like that. It was just fun. And the guy, he was called Adrian, actually. He was a wave skier at the time, and it was, I think he was an Aussie. And he was obviously just doing a summer stint at Kingsley,
Yeah.
And he just said to the teachers, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to come surfing with me after the activities are over?" And I was thinking, "Oh, it sounds good, that," and asked the teacher, and they were like, "Yeah, fine." So at like 5:30, I used to run down to the beach at Westwood Ho, you know what I mean, with this Adrian chap, and he was like, "Oh, you seem to be all right at this." And a proper swell came in towards the end of the week, maybe. You remember it being big. It was maybe 3 foot, but a proper ground swell. And I remember getting 2 or 3 rides, that actually went a long way. And I was like, and then shortly after that, I started buying Wavelength. I think it was issue 2.
Okay.
It was when Wavelength had pretty much naked girls in it, like half of it was
hot topic. Right now as well.
Half of it was black and white, half of it was colour, and just in the back little bits of it, they'd do maybe a little paragraph on Saltburn or Scarborough. Just like a rundown. They'd maybe do a bit on Norfolk, and obviously Cornwall would get, and Devon would get the bigger stuff. So, and I was ordering this magazine from my dad's paper shop, which was across from the Holocaust Comprehensive where I went to school. And I went in one day, and I'd seen these little photographs. I'd never been enticed to even come to Scarborough,
Yeah.
And we went in one day, and the guy who ran the shop, my dad's mate, we all used to be in a table tennis team, so we were quite close. He went, "Oh, somebody's left you a message." And a till rep had been in. It was a changeover of, when tills went to EPOS from the old-fashioned clonk, clonk,
Yeah.
clonk.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah. And obviously the guy had put a new till system in, but the guy surfed in Scarborough. He was from Doncaster.
Oh, right, okay.
And he surfed, and it was called Andy Hunn, and I kind of owe it all to Andy, really, because if I'd never met Andy, I might never have started surfing.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
And I met him in a pub. He brought some photographs, some colour photographs, and I was like, shit, the bed, man. Look at, it was like 4 to 6 foot, and I was like, does it really get surf? And he was like, yeah. He said, get some stuff bought. So I went up to Bolby Windsurf on Bolby Road, Donny. And like I was saying earlier to you, I bought the first ever wetsuit. It was 299 quid in 1988.
That is a ridiculous amount of money then as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, that was a Gull, is that right?
A Gull Power 38, it was called. I think Tomo had one as well when I
Okay.
first met Tomo, who owns Secret Spot.
It was like a patchwork quilt of colours, was it?
Yeah, it was advertised with 27 panels. I mean, God, now they're advertised with 4 or 5, or seamless seams.
It was one panel, was literally one colour. Yeah.
And every panel was a different colour. It was like bright green,
Yeah.
fluoro
I
pink.
remember
black.
that was the one in every magazine, wasn't it? That was
and it definitely it had smooth skin on the torso, but it had smooth skin on the arm. And it always used to wear away where the smooth skin used to rub like sandpaper. So you were ever putting wetsuit glue under your arms and stuff,
Well, I know that Jack, the global marketing manager of Gull, he listens to the show. He'll appreciate that global bit. Intergalactic marketing manager for the entire universe. So, Jack, if you are listening, I think this is a call out to bring back the 27 panel stitched colour multifunctional
Gold Power 38. I remember it.
Jason's Technicolor Dream Coat.
I used to put it on at home with my board underarm and walk past the patio doors just to see how cool I looked.
Look like Mr. Motivator.
Yeah, I managed to pick up this Crab Island quad that had like a fire design on it. Probably still one of the best surf designs. I wish I'd kept it really.
Yeah.
And then we just started coming through with Andy and a guy called Chris and a good friend of mine, Brian. Brian was a lot older than us. He was in his 40s. He was a kneeboarder, was Brian. We used to call him Brian the Snail. Unfortunately, passed away from cancer. He retired at 65, built his house, and pretty much died the same year. So that was a bit sad.
Yeah.
We really missed Brian. But one of them, I couldn't drive, you see. I was 16, so one of them used to pick me up. Brian used to come through from Nottingham. Andy used to, wherever, and then just started coming through here and met. In the early days, if I had a day off in the week, he'd come through in the week, and you'd struggle to find anybody to surf with.
Yeah, okay, that seems like an odd concept now.
Weekends were different because all the locals would meet up, and obviously, a lot of the locals would probably range from, say, 14, if a grommet would have been 13, 14 max, at the youngest back then. There was no tiny kids surfing.
Yeah.
And then we all used to meet on a Saturday and we'd run up and down the coast checking every spot known to mankind, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if that doesn't sum up how much surfing's changed, even in popularity, going from not being able to find another soul in your town to go for a wave or surf with during the week.
That happened earlier, didn't it? Because I was on my map and I was like, Have you ever surfed here?
That's never changed for you, has it? You still can't find somebody to go for a surf with.
Yeah. I said to you earlier, though, have you ever surfed here? And you were like, do not mention that name ever. Like, it's like, that is a secret spot sort of thing.
Secret of all secrets.
He said that's like surfing like in paradise, that is. He said it's like, and I was just like, oh, well, it's right there on the map. He's like, yes, that's it. But it's that thing of, like, there was none of that. So unless you were willing to do that, I think we've had this conversation quite a bit, and I think that's why secret spots have changed so much over the years, where you used to have to hunt, trek, walk, look at paper maps and like think, oh, that looks like, because there was none of this now. Google Map, you just zoom in and go, oh, there's a wave there. Like you can see everything.
Well, to sum that up for any youths listening, you said something a minute ago when somebody brought some photos, some colour photos to the pub to show you something. If you wanted to show people stuff that wasn't, like, you couldn't carry, that's how you showed people stuff back in the day, right? And if you wanted to find a surf spot, like Pete said, it wasn't go on Google Maps. Google wasn't even invented. The internet wasn't invented yet, or maybe the government were using it, I don't know. Yeah. But it was, go get an atlas, and then the atlas is obviously not like Google Maps now, where you can find a sandbar because the image picture from satellite will probably have a wave near that sandbar. It was just the colour blue to show that it was the sea.
Is it O'Neill that are doing that thing where they just, those strike missions? It's on Surfline, isn't it?
Yeah, so
they've only just started doing this second one, but is it what's
Quicksilver
it
used to do it, didn't they?
Yeah,
it was the Quicksilver. What was it called? It was they had that boat and they used to go on the boat.
Trader, weren't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and they used to go and find all the different spots, and they were responsible for mapping loads of it out, weren't they? First of all.
Yeah,
but
it was a really interesting interview I read with the guy who ran that Indies Trader.
Yeah,
and he just said, "Where would you go?" And he was like, "Mentawais for this time of year, Kiribati for that time of year.
Yeah.
Maldives for that time of year. And it was just, it was quite geographically spread out of where all the spots were, really. But everywhere's got swell window, hasn't it?
Of course it does. And I never know how you say it. Is it Mentawis, Mentawis?
I don't know.
Every time
Americans seem to say Mentawis, or
I don't think I've ever heard it said the same way twice.
The Yorkshire people go Mentawis.
Mentawis?
Mentawis, innit?
And I was curious how... so you'd surfed Florida a couple of times when you were younger, and then suddenly Westwood Ho. When you surfed Florida, was it board shorts?
Yeah.
How was that so the only thing you knew about surfing... I got
jellyfished really badly.
What, in Florida?
On Daytona Beach, yeah. I'd carried out the sea. I had I don't know what jellyfish it was. I didn't see it. I felt it. I had a red mark, like somebody had scoured me all the way from my thigh all the way down my ankle. And it wasn't too bad in the end, you know what I mean? But at the time, it was like electric shock. I was like,
jellyfish.
And Westwood Ho, longest waves you've ever surfed?
Oh, Westwood Ho kills it, man. Hands down.
Honestly, longest wave I've ever got. I've told you before. I've said it on here before.
Yeah.
1 minute and 17 seconds on the GoPro.
That is good.
That was from out the back.
That on the board?
Yeah.
1 minute 17 at Westwood Ho.
Yeah, from the back. Right, it was right the way into the shore though. From right at the back, right the way in, and it's just the longest wave I've ever caught there. And it's like, because you go Westwood Ho, and there's like points where you think, oh, I'm out the back. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, there's some.
I'm out the back. Oh, hold on. It's like
that whole bay's like that.
Yeah.
So you get to Saunton and you're like,
we're going to have to overlay this. You said you've still got it.
I've got,
So we're going to overlay it because you said it a few times, and in my head I've just been like, shite every time you've spoke. So let's get it overlaid while we've said this whole piece, and we'll see where it expires.
And you see the 1 minute 17. Yep. And then you're going to owe me £500.
Where did that come from?
Have you got that on video as well?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had GoPro on
the
front,
we were in Morocco for the 25th year anniversary of Secret Spot, and we went to Immerswar. And we got Immerswar, and it was so not particularly big, 3 or 4 foot, but that was running forever.
Yeah.
And I think the longest one guy got was 1 minute 40, and that was, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point paddling back out. You just
walk
back up the beach.
Well, I was just thinking about your 1 minute 17. I think in the last 2 months I've been surfing. I don't think all the waves combined I've caught would add to 117.
You want to get a longboard? It'll change your life.
Nah, that's fine. I'm good. I'll stick to my
7 bar.
I'll stick to my 2 second waves as long as I enjoyed that turn before I stacked it. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So you started surfing back then, and then when did you make the move from Doncaster to Scarborough?
Basically, I used to work at a clothing store called Bankrupt Clothing Company.
Bagroom.
Bankrupt Clothing Company.
Okay. I was going to say Bagroom.
The guy, Paul Kaplan, who used to work for, he had Jeanery to start with and owned Bankrupt Clothing, and then he went and started up Go Outdoors, the big...
Go Outdoors, yeah.
Yeah, I think he might have sold it now. So we started working for them and met some really cool guys, still good friends today. We had a wild time, man.
Go on, indulge in some stories.
No, I mean, we used to get paid. And basically, I was on a YTS at Next. I was getting $27.50 a week, right? Yeah. And this job came up at Bankrupt Clothing Company. And when I used to go to the nightclubs, there used to be a club called Seventh Heaven in Doncaster.
Seventh Heaven.
Which you went up. You always had to get suited and booted.
Sticky carpets.
What I mean? Yeah. And the 2 guys I worked with at Next with were real sort of posers, men about town, but you could get in anywhere,
Yeah.
You just hang about with them, even though you were like 16, 17.
Yeah.
But I used to see the Bankrupt guys out, and they were all dressed in flares and, do you know what I mean? Like hippie, all second-hand clothes stuff. And they kind of stood out. They were quite, And I went for this job at Bankrupt Clothing, and it was 120 quid a week.
Yeah.
And I got the job, from getting a pay rise of $27.50 to that. And when I was on YTS previously, I mean,
youth training scheme.
Yeah, I was getting $27.50, and my mum was charging me 35 quid a week board on like an IOU basis.
Yeah. So first week's wages at Bankrupt, you paid her back.
Yeah, well, at Parkard, we used to get paid on a Thursday. We'd go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday until the money ran out.
Yeah.
Straight from work. What a crew of people. There was about 16 staff there, and it was just the best time, what I mean? And then the Doncaster shop was closing, and they were opening one in Newcastle.
Okay.
So I thought, well, if I stay in Donny, I don't have a job. So I applied to go to Newcastle and went up and opened it.
Mm-hmm.
And then lived in Newcastle for about a year and a half. Got a bit peeved off with it. They actually accused me of stealing some money from them, and I didn't do it. Do you know what I mean? I still maintain that I didn't do it.
Sounds like the post office scandal.
Yeah, well, there's only maybe 2 or 3 people who had the passcode to the till. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was clear as present day that why would I do it? It's documented on the till.
Yeah.
It's obvious what it looks like I've done, but I didn't. But hey ho. And then I was surfing up at Newcastle for that year and a half. You know, I had a Ford Escort Mark II in Frog Green.
Nice.
And I used to live at Sandyford. And funny enough, I moved from Doncaster, and the house we were renting was on Doncaster Road in Newcastle.
Oh, there you go. It's a sign.
Yeah, it's like, don't leave. And then I got a job working for Coca-Cola.
Okay.
CCSB, so Coca-Cola Schweppes Beverages. And I'd left Bankrupt Clothing, and I'd moved back down to Donny briefly, and I got this job selling books to schools, which was pretty dull.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys that used to work in Bankrupt, in the warehouse, he was a student, and he was doing like a sandwich course.
Yeah.
So he said, "Do you want to come and work for Coke for the summer?" And it was the time of Steve Wright with Uzi 9mm and Mr. Mad and all that, and we drove around Coca-Cola in the Coke van.
That was all the like Radio 1 Roadshow stuff and everything.
Oh, so was it the advertising sort of side of it? You were doing promo stuff?
We were like, it went on. We were basically merchandisers.
Yeah.
We were going into independent stores. If you're going to say newsagents today, and you see, you go in and all the fridges are done out. They might have three Cokes and 2 Fantas and whatever. You do a planogram for them.
Yeah.
And we'd go to these like corner shops, and you'd open the fridge, and they'd have 95 different drinks in when they could only get 16 faces across. And we were like, guys, just pick the best 16, and these are them.
Yeah.
Obviously, Coke happens to be up there, but we
Pete would agree with that.
Yeah.
Big Coke fan over here.
So did that and moved around quite a lot. I was there for 3.5 years, but we were only on temporary contracts. You get a 6-month rolling contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they call it a no-hours contract now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
0 hours contract.
But it was quite fun because it was before email, before mobile phones.
How the world changed.
So we had to go. I lived in Sidcup, which is just outside London. A place called St Mary Cray, and they put me up in a hotel for a whole year, paid for me all my food. And they had this incentive where you had to do so many calls a day, and it was easy to, but you got 15 quid an extra call, and we used to do 3 or 4 a day. And like the expenses, you put your fuel in, but you claim 32p a mile back then, and you could, if you're driving around, you could make 300-400 quid a month on your fuel.
Yeah,
it was mental. But I mean, I worked pretty hard, and the job was great. And then about 2 or 3 months before I got made redundant, I thought everything was hunky dory. No signs of it. The merchandising force had increased to about maybe 45 reps nationwide or something. And my mum and dad said they were thinking of selling up and moving to Tenerife. My mum and dad had bought an apartment some years earlier. Do you mind if we go? And I went, no. And so they went, and then I got made redundant 3 months later. And I had no base to go back to. So, cutting a long shot, I was renting a house with 3 other Coke reps, so there was 4 of us.
Okay.
And they all just went back to their parents' houses,
Yeah, right.
And obviously I didn't really have anywhere to go to, and I didn't really want to go anywhere in Donny. And cut long story short, I walked in. I'd been unemployed for 6 weeks. I luckily had about 800 quid in my account and a car that worked, so I was coming through here quite a lot.
Right.
And obviously I got to know some of the boys, you know what I mean, from way back, and become, some of them are my best friends today. And I went to the job centre and I was like, can I work anywhere?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm thinking of moving to Scarborough. And they just told me what to do. So I came here, managed, stayed on Gav Clark's floor for about 3 weeks. And then managed to get a bed sit, It was called Many Names, was that bed sit?
I bet it was. I bet it was.
It was a meeting place. All the surfers used to come round on a Thursday night, all have a few beers, and then we'd all go out partying. And it was legendary times. And I was unemployed for 2 years, and I've got to say, it was one of the happiest times I've ever had. Just surfed non-stop.
Yeah.
There wasn't that many people here. Do you know what I mean? And
You were surrounded by Coca-Cola on tap for free, then expenses when your hotel was paid for and all the food was paid for. How was your health at that time?
It was pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, I've always been pretty skinny. I weigh about, 11.5 stone, but I went up to 12 stone 8 working for Coke. Yeah. Because that summer in London was so hot, and you had supposed to wear trousers, and but they let you take drinks out.
Yeah.
So you'd maybe get a cooler bag. I was maybe doing 10 cans of Coke on a day.
That's more than me.
That's more than Pete.
Yeah. Is that possible? I don't even touch the stuff now.
Yeah.
I'll have a Coke if I'm feeling ill. You know what I mean? Just to whatever.
It's a funny one, actually.
I've cut right down on it as well. I used to drink, that's all I used to drink. Now I just drink a lot of tea and I drink a lot of water, but I have a Coke.
Coke is a funny one, because for people listening, it would probably be, it's either one or the other. And for me, I think probably up till maybe around the time I started surfing, maybe taking my fitness more seriously. I mean, fucking hell, I'd been in the army for like 12 years at that point, so it was super fit anyway, but maybe not healthy in terms of eating. Yeah. I would like smash a fucking pint of Coke before I'd go to bed, and then wake up and have a can of Coke, like it was water. Yeah. And then it was just went cold turkey. But if I'm out now and having dinner, I quite like to have a Coke with a meal.
Still nice, isn't it?
It is nice,
being a kid, when you got the glass bottle with the straw in, and you used to have competition so you could drink it all in one, and your head would go.
But it's better out of a glass bottle.
See, I don't know, because when I was younger, my mum and dad always used to be like I was only allowed Coca-Cola if I was going to the pub with them or something like that. Yeah. And then I think as I got older and I could do what I wanted, I was like, I'm not allowed this, that sort of thing. So
we were similar. I mean, my parents were, I guess, reasonably strict, but they would only drink fizzy drinks on a weekend.
Yeah, right.
If you wanted Monday to Friday, it was always a sit-down cook Yorkshire meal. Yeah. Often toad in the hole, or meat and 2 veg, broccoli, cauliflower, and all that. And my dad would maybe bring a litre and a half of cocoa on a Friday night, and it would be gone by Sunday.
Yeah. Well, this is the Coca-Cola podcast, not sponsored by Coca-Cola. Let's talk about your surfing and how that then progressed. And did you spend a lot of time in the water, or?
Yeah, a hell of a lot of time, really. I mean, I was hooked. I remember the first time I came through with Andy, I'd driven up to Saltburn, where Gary Rogers.
Yeah, I know Gary.
You know Gary, don't you? Yeah, he had the big blue van called the Gannet, and I went in and bought a yellow pop out, and it had a red lightning bolt.
Perfect
thing. It weighed an absolute ton, and I think it had a glass in red fin as well to match the red stripe, and it weighed about 40 pounds. Yeah. And I used to take off on a wave, and I just used to shout for people to get out of the way because this thing was a mean link killing machine.
If I've seen you, I'm hitting you. I don't know where I'm turning.
It's like a hovercraft.
I remember going down to Caton once at Easter time, and just getting my first ever proper full-on hollow wave, and making it all the way to the beach, thinking, "Wow, this is cool." And and at the time I came here, there was Steve Crawford, who still surfs, He was doing 360 aerials. Mm-hmm. That was, 36 years ago. Unbelievable talent. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Still surfs regularly, still a good surfer. He's sort of changes boards and stuff now, he rides all sorts of miles and that, but he's still getting in the water. But to see him surf was like, how is he doing that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it was nice over maybe in the future to get to a reasonable level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I've realised I was doing that now. Yeah.
It's important to be around people like that because it kind of gives you that something to reach towards.
I think we were lucky here. Back then we had a crew. There was like Coxie, Matty, Tomo. Who owns the store. Too many names to mention really. Prawn. Then there was the older guys like Eric Gringo, Galvin. They all used to hang around with Nigel Veach and travel to Ireland and so they had some pretty hell stories. But like, there was quite a bit of a big wave contingent back then. There was a shove, you know, and you were kind of, when I started surfing, you were led to believe that you just went surfing. Didn't matter if it was 2 foot or 10 foot.
Yeah.
You just went to the beach and you paddled out on what board you had, and you went out at Caton Point and threw yourself over the ledge. Else, if you didn't go, you'd get your shit and they'd take piss out of you all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I think everything was different. Even like when I look at how different sort of skateboarding was back then as well. It was just like you just go in. That's it. You know, even BMXing. You wanted to do any of that anything like that, surfing, skating, BMXing, whatever it was. You learnt by you just go.
BMXing was my first love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, we moved to this little village called Oakley.
Oh yeah.
And it's near where Doncaster Airport is. And they built their own track, and they wouldn't let anybody on it. Talk about localism.
Yeah.
And then when I moved there, they were one of the guys who, why don't you come to the track? And they built their own quarter pipe on the track, and it had about 2 foot of vert on it. You could not pull away from this ramp, do you know what I mean? Else you were dead.
Yeah.
But everybody learned to ride it pretty good, and that was an amazing time, you know, growing up.
Time
and then like sort of surfing took after that, you know.
Yeah.
And then I haven't biked for years. There's too many offs and too many accidents and stuff like that. And I'm not a very careful person, so
you reinforce that by coming around here and going, I hope I don't kick the cameras.
Yeah, I know. I said, watch your camera gear, guys, because I'm likely to. If it's an accident to be happened, I'm normally in it.
Well, at least you know where you stand on that.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into the competition scene? Was that your thing, or
a little bit? Not so much. I mean, we had a contest here years ago. I'm guessing I would have been maybe about 21, 22, and I was living up at the pit, the bed sit, you know, where we were, and Carwyn Williams came up to judge it, and a guy called Gibbon, Paul Dye, I think it is. Yeah, and they stayed on my floor, and I made them beans on toast.
Solid.
I mean, it was only a local amateur contest. When I won that, you know, and close call with my good mate JMO. Didn't expect to win it, and then I think the last contest I ever had was, I think it was 2004, when the BPSA. I think it was a British Pro Tour Association came.
Okay.
And I got fourth in that, remarkably.
Good result.
But I remember I was never one for. I've never been one for training and being fit, and you know, like the athletes are today. I would just go out, have a beer, go surfing, you know, have some fun. And I gets down to the beach, and it's the first heat, and there's Nathan Phillips in my heat, you know, and it was about 6 foot at Caton, closing out, low tide. And there's some South African guy doing all this yoga stuff on beach, you know what I mean? And there's me probably there with a little bit of a hangover, and you know, and I kind of wrote myself off, and then it was just closing out, and I managed to get this right that ran off in the opposite direction across all the boulders and the rocks, and I must have got about 200 meters on it, and I couldn't get back out. I only had one wave. And I walked back up the beach, and I was discussing with myself. And somebody went, "You nearly won the heat." I was like, "Get stuff." And and then I got through to the final, I think, and I was pretty tired, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
They were probably 15 years younger than me. I was maybe 35 at the time, and I think maybe the final had Alan Stokes in, and Mark Harris, you know, he got, and I can't remember who the guy was, but yeah. So I came fourth. So I was chuffed with that.
Yeah.
That was the end of my.
That was the end of
I entered 2. I won 1 and came fourth. So I was.
That's
like,
a great set of stats, though. So you've averaged like 2.5 place into career victory.
Yeah.
So then, you know, how did it come that you ended up working at this place? And
basically, I'd been unemployed. I was doing some ding repairs here and there, just anything to get by, you know what I mean? Anything to, you know, meet the lads at a weekend, or you know, put some petrol in the car or whatever. And then it got to the stage where, like, I think, you know, what's happening in the media now with Richard Shunak saying that, you know, you've got to go and work, and you can't, you know. And there was a lot of pressure back then. You had to prove you were applying for jobs and stuff like that, and it just got a bit. And I was thinking, you know. And then I went for a job at a place called Swift's Engineering, and they make the cable trays, you know, like the trays above us.
Oh,
the
right, yeah,
silver ones, yeah. And they dip it all in galvanizing, and we just used to sit there and file the blunt ends off.
Right.
It was mind numbing.
Okay.
I lasted
Only
there
imagine.
for 6 months, but the problem was the factory was out at Caton, so I used to pass Caton Bay on the way there.
Oh.
No.
And like, if it was
Be
a
like
Friday or a Monday, you know, and you'd pass and it'd be like 4 to 6 foot, and you were going there for 6 o'clock shift start, you'd just turn around and go home and go surfing and just phone in sick. So when the redundancies came around, I was the first one to go, and the big gaffer said to me, he said, how many times, be honest with me, were you really sick? I went, I wasn't.
Never been sick in my life, boss.
Never.
Yeah. So,
Surfing.
yeah. And then I needed a job, you know what I mean? And I basically begged Tomo to give us a job. Really.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'd kind of been in retail most of my life, and been in retail most of my life, and stuff like that. So yeah. And that, I'm guessing that was around, I couldn't tell you the date. This opened in what? 90?
Oh. Yeah.
Maybe 92. Don't know. Maybe they'd been open 18 months,
Okay.
2 years or something. And I was here for about 5 years, yeah.
When it opened, was it the surf sort of demographic? Was it not big enough to justify a shop, clearly, but...
Well, the problem was, before it opened, there was nowhere to get anything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was Gary selling out of the back of his van.
Yeah.
But even his range was pretty limited, you know.
Mhm.
If you were going to buy a leash, you'd buy the one leash he had, you know.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
That was
That he'd
it.
been
Wow.
using.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You got a
don't think
9
it was
foot board
series
and
of
a 6 foot
different
leash.
hardness of wax then. It was just wax,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, but there was quite a lot of people, a lot of locals, not loads, but maybe 20 full-time locals that were always in the sea, definitely at weekends. And quite a lot of people coming through. Like, I came through from Donny. There was the Mansfield guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, from everywhere, really.
Okay.
But it was definitely quiet in the week because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, people can work remotely now, can't they, and do flexi time and all sorts of stuff. So, but yeah, so I was here then. I left to do my own thing. I set my own business.
Yeah.
We had some shops called Sublime, which were pretty cool. Did, like, you know, like I was saying to you earlier, did sort of more urban fashion, sort of Stussy Car, Box Fresh and that. But I think that lasted about 13 and a half years or something like that. And then we went into liquidation, and I said to, Thomas said, do you want to come back here? And I was like, I remember saying to him, only if I can start at 10 o'clock.
Putting rules on it.
Yeah, and I still start at 10. And that was because, you know, I work 5 days one week and 6 days another. So I do a short, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like 10 till 5. I'm always here till about 5 anyway. But it meant that I could go surfing every day of the year. Even on the coldest, on 21st on the solstice, winter solstice, it's still light by 7:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
You can still get in, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go surfing.
So
yeah.
does the shop does it open at 10?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Shop
great.
opens at 10. No, it opens at 9. I'm just never
Only,
in.
I think only in surfing. I don't know if there's any other industry that happens. Like football, we're going to start the game an hour late because one of the players wants to go for a kick about himself.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anywhere else, does it?
But to be fair, when we had our shops, I mean, we tried opening at 9. It's an absolute pointless waste of time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a Northern Town thing or what, but it's just...
I think that's
There's
like,
nobody... The only times it is, I have to say, is when the surf's absolutely cranking, there hasn't been a swell, and you'll get here and there can be 4 or 5 people already here because they've either forgot the boots or
Right,
the,
okay.
stuff
okay.
like that.
Okay.
But general reason, 10's fine.
I think that's a surf shop, skate shop thing all over the country because, like, even down by me, there's skate shops that never used to open till 10 because, You'd open at 9. You'd be sat there for an hour doing nothing, and it was like, what's the point of being there for that hour? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I think for people that have just taken up surfing and they go to a surf shop and it's like why is it closed at this time of the day? Like, do they not want my business? And what they do, but not when it's 3 foot and clean. They don't.
The old sign, gone surfing.
Yeah.
Gone surfing, it's true.
How'd you find that then? I know you can say like, you know, you're not here till 10 because you get that, but you come in on that day and the sun's starting to come out and it's like perfectly glassy.
Yeah.
Have you still got that a bit of you could just stay in a bit
No,
longer?
I think, you know, I used to, in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I think it's got a bit more serious, you know, as a business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used to look, you know, because I love surf forecasting and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watch your space, by the way. Might be something coming along. Yeah, and I'm really into my surf forecasting. Always have been, you know. And I used to plan. I'd be like, can I have Tuesday off and Friday?
Yeah.
And it kind of doesn't really fit with what, you know. So everybody just gets a designated day.
Okay.
Off now and stuff.
Maybe a good time actually. You've obviously, you said you got something in the pipeline. Maybe for newbie and intermediate surfers or people that don't pay much attention to surf forecast, they only use the apps and maybe don't look at weather charts and so on and so forth. Is there any advice you would give people on what maybe they could do?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if I was to sit down right now and look, the first thing I would do is I'd probably look at Windy, and it gives you the, you know, like the Met Office charts with the isobars, you know, for people who don't know. And isobars are, you know, it shows the low pressure systems, and the lines show you which way the wind's blowing.
Yep.
Wind creates waves, you know. I'd look at those two first, and then I'd look at what I'd interpret how long I think the swell is going to be.
Okay.
And then I'd look at the wind forecast to see if it's going to be offshore, onshore.
Right.
But there are wave buoys off the oil rigs. We're lucky to have a few wave buoys that are in our direct path of swell from the north.
Okay.
So if you do the math, one of the buoys I use is about 310 nautical miles in a linear. Is it linear straight line?
Yeah, linear.
Yeah. So if you look at the wave buoy, you can see it says 5 feet at 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If you times that 10-second period by 1.5, it gives you the miles an hour the swell's travelling in. So you then divide the 310 by the miles an hour, and it'll tell you what time it's going to get here.
Okay.
That's interesting.
The problem is where you guys are, Cornwall, you know, down to the southwest, the wave buoys are quite close to shore.
Yeah.
There aren't any that I know of in the mid-Atlantic out so far out.
Yeah.
So it just depends where that wave buoy is.
Okay.
You know, like the ones in Hawaii off Oahu on the North Shore, they've got one quite a way out, you know.
Yeah.
So, but even then, the data can be wrong.
Yeah, of course.
You know, the wave buoy will not give you it won't give you a direction of which way the swell's travelling. It'll give you the swell height and the period. Sometimes it doesn't give you the period at all, which is a bit annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just decipher which way the swell's travelling from the previous charts.
Do you think there's a bit of a element of maybe if you started surfing before the accessibility of, you know, these apps and
we used to
websites?
phone up home. I mean, we didn't even have a video recorder at our house.
Yeah.
You know, but we used to phone up and like Paddy or Andy Hunt, you know, he'd phone his wife up and tell him to tape Country File because it used to be on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because it used to give you a whole week of isobars.
Right.
Or you'd phone up, do you remember Marine Call?
No.
You used to have a Marine Call. I think it's probably still, it was like, you know, like the speaking clock.
Yeah.
And it used to go through and it used to have all the shipping areas.
Ah, right, yeah.
Sorry, it would do it round clockwise. So sometimes you'd click on it and you'd get to Humber and you'd missed it because you needed to be up at Viking or wherever, and you used to have to sit on the phone while it went round the country, Fair Isle, Fisher, and you were like, just get on with it. And you know, sometimes they used to put a swell thing on there, but generally it was Met Office and just guesswork.
Do you use the apps now, or do you just use your own sort of system that you've figured out?
I didn't figure it out. I read it on Surfline. It's back in the back pages of Surfline and the surf forecast. You're reliant on data, which is wave buoy data. And a lot of places don't have a relevant buoy further enough away to see if a long range swell's coming. So then it would be more guesswork.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure like NOAA and Surfline and that all interpret the same kind of data. Do you know?
Yeah. Okay. It's just funny the variations you can get. I think more so with wind is what I see. That's the discrepancy I see. Depending on where I get my wind from, it can be so varied.
I know where you get your wind from. I've spent a week with you.
The local bakery.
Baines. Beans? Baines.
Yeah. No, but a lot of them get it wrong. I mean, Surfline, obviously it was Magic Seaweed. Surfline acquired Magic Seaweed. Everybody knows that. But Surfline, I would say, is probably worse than Magic Seaweed.
Yeah.
They just never seem to spot long period swells.
See, this is an interesting one because,
and I think that maybe the mathematical algorithm they use, do you know what I mean? Wind versus fetch versus this. You know, when you look at where the ice cap is, I was only looking the other night, you know, in April, where is the ice cap in the Arctic Circle? And it's a lot higher than you would think. Yeah. So you've probably got, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 miles worth of fetch where a swell can come from. And maybe the algorithm, I could be totally wrong, is only picking it up from 800 miles away, you know.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I remember a session years ago, and I got it wrong this day. And I was like, it's going to be no surf. It was I remember it was a flat, beautiful summer's day. And all the boys were going out for a beer. I was on the dole, I couldn't afford to. And I was a bit peeved off, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to go out, but I had about £3 left, so there's no chance of that. And I remember it was one of those rare summer nights where you fall asleep on your bed. Yeah. You know, when you're red hot and you've got nothing on.
Yeah.
And I left the Velux open. And at about 3:30 in the morning, I heard this. I was like, is that surf? And it was pretty loud. And I got on my BMX, you know. And I shot off down to the end of the street. I looked over the North Bay. And it was about 5 foot and absolutely stacked like you've never seen it. And I was like... So gets in as an hour and a half, and I remember that day, went in at North Bay, then Bunkers, then drove up to Staithes, back to North Bay and Bunkers at night, and with 5 sessions that day. Must have been at least 2 hours each, maybe more. And I remember I was shuffled in like an old man that night, and I collapsed face down on my bed in all my clothes, and I woke up 9 hours later in exactly the same place I fallen down.
That's a proper day of surfing. That's a proper day of surfing.
So where's the friends and the surfing that you've had? Where's it taking you around the world or around what places?
Let me see. Obviously, my parents have lived in Canaries for 30 years, so I've surfed Tenerife a lot every year. Okay. Still get hassled to death. Still. I don't know. I just don't think they need to do localism like they do. You know, get shouted at, head pushed underwater by somebody my own age. Yeah. You know, it's like, grow up, guys.
I didn't realise it was that bad in Tenerife. I've only surfed it once, and it was the world's smallest reef you've ever seen.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it is bad. Yeah.
No need.
There's just no need for it. But yeah, Canaries, Lanzarote, Fuerteventura, Tenerife. There's surf on all the Canary Islands, you know. Yeah. Gomera, south that's got surf. What's it called? La Palma's got surf. They've all got surf, you know. Yeah. I don't think El Hierro's that great because it's quite cliffy. So there, been to Morocco a few times. Usual, France, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Scotland. And then further afield, Indonesia. Okay. So, been to Bali, God knows how many times, 6, 7 times. Lombok, Sumbawa. Never been up to Mentawai, is it?
Mentawai.
I've never been on a boat trip, but I don't particularly like boats. Yeah. Get a bit restless, get a bit seasick, and I'd just rather be on land, really. You know what I mean? At least on land, you can have a game of table tennis. Or
I say seasick thing. I had this one thing once, and Leighton said to me like years ago. We were sat there. He goes, "Oh, I feel a bit seasick." Sat there, and I was like, "What are you on about?" Sat on a surfboard. He goes, "Don't you ever get that?" And I went, No. Next time I went surfing, I was sat there. I went, feel a bit sick. You know when someone sticks it in your head.
I've never had that.
I've felt like that, especially if you've got, maybe say you've had a bit of a night out the day before and you sit there and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. It's just sometimes I think it's when the swell sort of goes flat for a while, but you're still getting like the smaller waves coming through and they're like bobbing.
I think seasickness is more
rocking.
that.
That.
I get more like sea legs if it's a long session in the water bobbing about, but I've never had that.
Yeah, you'll get it now.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. If we ever get a next surf.
Yeah.
Thanks, South Bay.
So
you're well travelled. Yeah,
I mean. The Maldives, or Maldives, what you want to call it, that was the best surf trip
Maldivas.
ever. A good friend of mine, Eric and Lou. Eric will be, I don't know how old is Eric now, 69 now, but 2005. Eric married Lou, and they got married sort of the year before. And they never had a honeymoon. They were going on honeymoon to the Maldives, and they said to us, does any of you guys want to come? So me and 3 other pals jumped on board, and oh man, what a trip! What a trip! Yeah,
didn't even see a wedding.
Yeah, didn't see a wedding. Yeah. And we were there 2 weeks, and it absolutely pumped. I mean, literally, the first few days were like 3 or 4 feet, and we had about 12 days of like solid 6 foot. One of the days must have been 10 foot at lowies.
Wow! And
it was just offshore and perfect, and the sea life, and yeah, that was an amazing trip. And I've just priced it to go back. If you're watching Hoodem Fushi, it's called now, give us a discount. I can't afford 4,700 quid.
Yeah, it's nuts price now.
We did it then. It cost me, I think, 950 quid in 2005.
Okay.
And we went half board. But like now, it's just a fortune.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of these surf resorts, the islands aren't that posh when you get on them. You know, they're not 5-star.
Yeah.
They're just all right. They've got
It's
nice
just the
pools
demand,
and bar
isn't it?
areas and stuff, but some of the rooms you're like, you know, when you look at it paying hundreds of pounds a night, you think it'd be another lodge. I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
I think the Four Seasons one's a bit better, but even one of my friends said he wasn't that impressed with it.
I think the fact that you're still going to pay it suggests that they'll still keep charging it.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to offer it at that price.
Yeah.
There's a demand for it.
But I mean, what a beautiful place, you know. I mean, I saw a turtle every session I surf with.
Yeah.
Dolphins were coming around doing flick flacks, and the scariest thing, I mean, it's ever happened to me. We met a crew of Spanish guys, and we were surfing at Sultan's one day, and it was just epic. Probably running for like 300-400 meters, maybe longer. And me and this Spanish guy were paddling out. He could speak a bit of English, really friendly. And there was a wave coming towards us, and he went, and he tapped me, and he started pointing, and he looked really worried. And I looked up, and there was this giant tuna, right, with its mouth open, and he had teeth like zigzags, like a horror movie, coming straight at us. And we actually cuddled each other on our boards. We were going, oh my God, it's going to kill us. And it came straight at us, like full belt, and about 2 foot from where it got to us, it just went whoosh, and just disappeared.
They're massive, aren't they, tuna, as well?
Huge. This thing was
I don't know how they put them in a can. Like,
I know, I did put them in a can. Do you remember that song? What is it? President peaches come in a can.
They were put there by a man for a factory downtown.
You've
See that whole thing now.
Yeah.
If I had my little way.
Yeah. The old presidents.
and
Dead presidents of the United States, wasn't it, or something like that? Yeah.
You're
And
not
then
finished
I've
talking
been
music.
to New Zealand, Oz. I'm trying to think where else. Probably other places I can't remember.
What do you ride?
What do I ride?
Yeah.
My normal board, I ride a 5'9" round nose fish. I tried to ride my shortboard the other day, my Pies-Alien 2 and my 6.0, and God, it was so narrow in the nose compared to the fish, and I was struggling on it. So I maybe need to get back on the shortboards a little bit. But a lot of times on the East Coast, you know, and maybe in Britain in general, I wouldn't say it's lackluster, but it's okay, you know what I mean? But it does lack power and steepness and hollowness. So being on a bit of a wider board, and obviously, you know, 53 coming up this year, do you know what I mean? It's helps me have a bit of a paddle. So, and then I've just borrowed James Maris, my mate. I've kind of acquired his CI mid.
Oh,
6A.
nice. Yeah, okay.
I've been riding that with
6A.
just twin keels.
Yeah.
no back fin, you know, and that's really funky. Yeah.
What did you point at me there for?
Mid-length 6.8.
6.8.
Pete's got that. I've got a 6.6, right? Mid-length BP Mini, 4th BP Mini. It's a great board, an ESE tech, and I only really use it. I got it for resetting some of my own flaws in my own surfing, just to give me that bit of stability, but I can still throw it round as best I could.
Yeah.
And it did exactly what I wanted it to do. But if I've got lazy days and I can't be
Wise
arsed,
choice.
yeah, that's exactly what I'll take out. Pete's like, that's a short board, 6.6, but he will not have it that a mid-length has got nothing to do with the size. It's the shape that makes it a mid-length.
Yeah.
He's just not having it. So it's nice to hear
I don't
someone
know.
else
A lot of people, like customers, get so, I don't know,
transfixed on size.
volume. It's classic volume. You know, I've got an old Softtech. I think it's called a Torpedo. You know the Softtech Aussie softboards, and it's 5'2", and it's as wide as a door. It looks like a giant bodyboard. You know what I mean? But it's got 3 fins on it.
Yeah.
It's 45 litres. My round nose fish is 31 litres. I can catch waves as easy on the fish than I can on the thingy, because once you get down to a board that's really, really small, it doesn't matter how much volume you've got in it. It's pretty hard to catch. So, you know, length of a board is nothing better than the length of a board to pick a wave up easy. That's why people ride miles, get loads of waves.
Yeah.
You know, when you couldn't really propel yourself efficiently.
I think the
on a
thing is,
short
from that side of mid-length, because mid-lengths used to be mini miles, didn't they? That was it.
Yeah.
And it was growing up, it was set out in sizes from short boards were from this size to this size. Mini miles went from, I can't remember what it was, about 6'8" to 7. 7, not like at 8 foot or something like that. And then anything over that was a long board.
Yeah.
So anything over 6'6" to about 8 foot something in my head is mid-length. That is it, because that's where the change.
That's the problem. It's the things we get told in surfing, and I think there's a bit of peer pressure through advertising and so on and so forth. And I think your example is a really good one, because especially in the UK, because you're right, there's obviously spots that are heavy and fast and hollow, but for the most part it's quite weak, sloppy and choppy. Pete likes when I say that, but it really is. So why somebody needs a 5.7, which is 22 litres, do you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be able to enjoy it unless you're a really good surfer. Like, surf the board for
and
the
fit,
waves you're
and
surfing.
You've got to be fit. If you're on a, you know, what does Mick Fanning ride? 27 litres? You know, it's probably about the same weight as me. I mean, 31, it's not that much more, is it? But I mean, if you're at top of your game, you'd notice it. But I'm not at top of my game, you know. I'm an aging surfer and I still want to catch waves. Yeah. So why, you know...
Volume's your friend.
Volume is your friend.
I've got my eye on the that new Firewire, though, that Great White Twin.
Yeah, I saw that today, actually. There's two I'm after, that and the FRK Plus.
Yeah.
I've got
quite a few friends who got FRK Plus. I mean, it's more of a sort of short board, isn't it? Ish.
See,
got a little bit of extra volume in it, but I quite like how the round nose fish surfs, and it does look a similar kind of profile. Do you know what I mean?
I'm after a skin dog cherry picker if we're going there.
We'll come back to you. I found a board by chance. I just got it because your Firewire done that massive deal, didn't they? I think the year before last, and they just like global stock clearance, and it was the Helium mashup, the Mitch Addo Helium mashup. I got it on a 510, and I got it because it was cheap. Than it would have been. I wouldn't say it was cheap by any means. But the board that I did want, I was desperate for, and I had been for a long time, was a Rocket Wide Squash Tail. Yeah. And I got that at the same time.
Both
boards.
Great
boards, yeah. For similarities, but, you know, both of them. So one was to match my ability, but the other was to match generally the waves that I ride, more sloppy, choppy waves. And I thought nothing of the Firewire when I got it. I wasn't getting it with any expectations. Somehow, that board allows me to surf better outside my ability, above my ability, and actually the Rocket Wide doesn't get a look in. I've used it twice, and both times somebody's dropped in on me and damaged it because it's made straight up of eggshells, which is pretty frustrating. But that Firewire, or I think Firewires probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and before that, his short boards probably had quite a poor reputation as performance boards. Fuck me, has that changed? They are. I think there's maybe one surfer.
And the mashup, I mean, what a sensible board. When you look at it, I mean, I've got an old, and I still serve it to this day, I've got an old 25-year-old Santa Cruz, I think it's called the Knot. Right. And it's like a fish shape, and it's the tail really It's quite wide and it's got like a wing and it bumps into quite a narrow swallow.
Yeah.
Quite a narrow swallowtail at the end. And when you look at a mashup, it almost looks like that board.
Yeah.
You know.
I absolutely love that thing, and I think I'm going to get that same mashup as a step up.
Yeah.
Just for I've been really frustrated with my surfing recently. I don't know. I've found a little bit of a disconnect, which happens, and I've found myself going back to my old 4th burger fish.
Yeah.
Which was always a terrible board for me.
You
when I
what?
was burger fish.
Burger
It was
fish.
never a good board for me when I was learning to surf. But actually, I've realised now that is actually quite a good board for me because it just wants to go straight because there's so much rail. It's a 6.2, but I've gone back onto that, so I can still sort of throw it round. But again, I've got that little bit of extra float and everything else to be a bit more forgiving. So I'm thinking actually that mashup and maybe a 6.0, 6.1 might be perfect. I know I've then got the exact same board twice, but different conditions. You know, we're surfers. We need to have more boards. You can never have enough boards.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, well, my mate who I lent the CI mid off, I mean, I think his current board, bear in mind he's just a recreational surfer, you know. I think his current board stands at about 25.
Right.
All in good nick.
It's madness, isn't it?
I
When you
know.
think about it, and like how much they cost nowadays as well.
I mean, I think I've got about 14, but half of them are just really old 6'10" step ups, you know.
Yeah.
18 inches wide, 2.25 inches thick, like a spear, you know.
Yeah. My only thing with advertising...
More sentimental value than
yeah.
worth to anyone, I would guess.
My only thing with the advertising of them kind of boards, and the CI mid-length's actually quite a good example. When you see the advertisement from like CIS on how you can throw this board around like a performance shortboard and everything else, they've always got the best surfers riding it. And I'm like, that's great. They could do that on a flip-flop. Just go put a regular surfer on it and maybe advertise
I must
it that
admit,
way.
you can't throw it around like a normal shortboard, you know. But I think what mid-lengths do to a lot of people is it makes you look better. Because you're actually surfing a purity rather than thrashing around trying to do stuff you can't do. And like, because the rail's longer, when you do a turn, you actually...
It's drawn out.
On the rail.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than sort of...
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people try to fit too much in, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I like what...
I mean,
I
look
think
at John, for instance. He doesn't do anything in between his turns. He just stands there and then...
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about longboarding though. Like the turns are like... It's more graceful.
Yeah.
Like it's not that shortboard is always like it's always meant to be like, you know, like bah, like that, like everything's like slammed in. And I know skaters who surf and shortboard surfers that skate that are like semi decent skateboarders. They skate like they surf as well. Like they'll hit stuff and they'll be like bang into it. Like everything's like really whipped into stuff as well.
It's nice when you see proper flow. You know, you watch somebody like Taylor Knox or even Machado, you know, when he was on more conventional equipment, that just rail to rail smoothness without all the jerky bits is what I would... Tom Curran, for instance, you know, I mean, was there any better surfer, you know, for style?
Yeah.
And like, I think most people would rather look good than, you know, you can be a very, very clumsy aerialist, can't you? That can do everything, but it just looks a bit forced.
But also a mid-length, what it does give you is one is wave count if you're a shortboarder.
Yeah.
But also it just brings back the element of fun.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
thought one of the best quotes I've heard, and you'll correct me, I'm sure who he took it from. But do you know Mark Vaughan?
Yeah.
We had Mark Vaughan on one of the recent episodes. It's been out actually, and he'd taken this from someone else. And he had said, so Mark Vaughan was riding a wave somewhere, and he was taking off on this wave, right? And he raced the first section, and he didn't quite make it round, so he raced the next section, and raced the next section. Then ended up just going fast as fuck, pumped all the way down the line, and he didn't manage to do anything because he's racing the section. He got to the end of the wave, and he was just really pissed off at himself because he'd done nothing. And for him, his performance is important, right? That's what he takes away from his surfing. And he was so annoyed, and I think he said it was like the next day he was thinking back over it, and he realised he'd lost something in that moment of not just enjoying the purity of riding a wave.
Yeah.
And he'd taken a quote from, again, I can't remember who it was, but the guy had said that if you ride a board that is built for just performance surfing, so a thruster, right? That's all you're going to try and do and try and achieve. And if you don't have the ability to do that, so if you ride a shortboard,
you're kind of limiting yourself, aren't you?
If you ride a single fin shortboard or a straight up 20 shortish board, you can't perform and surf. Therefore, you can only do what you can do and really enjoy it and connect back to surfing. And I think that's super important.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to make that step yet. I'd rather do what you used to and try and throw it round. But
the only problem I find is I'm useless at stepping from board to board. I'm all right going from my shorter board up to the mid-length, but if I've been on the mid-length all week and I get back on especially a short board, I just can't surf it. There's just no volume under the chest. You know what I mean? I don't know whether it's me, but I know a few people, like, you stick Steve Crawford on a 10-foot sup one day and he'd quite happily go and surf a 6'1" skinny old school thrust.
See, I find it harder stepping up.
Do a really good job at it.
I find it harder stepping up boards. I find it easier.
Yeah.
I could go from a big board to short. I find it hard to go from a short to a big. And I think for me it's because, if it's a really short board, you just move your chest and that can affect what the board's doing, I know mid-length, you don't, you can still kind of do that, but you're getting away from it,
You're either going or you're not,
your placement's so much more important.
You should try surfing that. Is it Timber Tech? Oh, which one's that?
Timber Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a piece of shit, but
I love that board.
The balance point, the midpoint on that is within. I was sat on it, borrowed it off him, sat on it, moved back about half an inch, the nose went right up in the air.
It's a 9-1 Timber Tech.
Move forwards,
yeah,
and move forwards half an inch, and the sweet spot of it is so minute in the middle of it.
Yeah. To be fair, I still don't know anything about longboarding, but I bought a longboard just with the intention of catching more waves. That's kind of what I thought in my head. This is quite a long time ago now, to be fair, but I've still got it and it's still pristine. I probably should sell it.
A mid-length to me is a big board. When I get on that mid-length, it feels like a boat.
Totally.
Even though it's only 6 inches longer, but the plan shape's are totally different.
I could just never find the balance point. That was the thing with that longboard. And the other thing is that it's a performance longboard. It's not for just catching waves, so it's got a shit ton of rocker in it. Yeah. And I was like, why am I not catching waves like everyone else? So actually, the board just frustrated me, but it looks beautiful.
Frustrated me as well.
I would like to. I can't longboard for shit, and then the problem is, when you're used to shortboarding and you jump on a log, apart from the exceptional people that can just go on anything, like you said.
Yeah, I've never found it an easy transition jumping.
You take off and you try and do a turn, and your top half of your body's done some impressively, really hyper-extended manoeuvre, and the board didn't move, and then something's got to give, and it's always you. You just pirouette off. Yeah. I'm like, right, okay, I need to be on the tail.
So it was like some of the questions we often ask as well is like, after all your years of surfing, can you remember best wave or best session you've ever had, and worst wipeout?
Worst wipeout first. Couple of bad wipeouts. Obviously the one that destroyed my knee. For absolute thinking I was going to die was the first trip to Lanzarote. There was a group of Cornish surfers there. We won't mention somebody's name. We were talking about him earlier.
Right.
Rob Small, Paul Lovell. There were some kind of sponsored riders from Cornwall, and there was us Yorkshire boys, and I was still getting up on. I'd only been surfing, I think it was 89, maybe a year.
Okay.
And one of the older guys had flown out to Lanzarote, and he said, "I'll get an apartment for us." And when we landed, I was there for 2 weeks. When we landed, he met us at the airport, and he'd just been living in the car, and he hadn't got any accommodation for us at all. And we ended up staying at the La Santa Sports Complex, where the track is and everything. Yeah. And we went to look around some accommodation from our village. It was really expensive, and the two older guys, they had this idea that if they walked in, La Santa Sports Complex might have a deal going on, and they had a deal going on. It was 28 quid a night, and you could use all the sporting facilities. So we stayed at the Santa Sports Complex for the whole 2 weeks, and it was a dream because all you had to do to check the surf was walk up the floor from your room, and you could see Boca de la Bajo there, La Santa right, the left, whatever you want to call it, the slab, and then Cameo in the distance. But when that morning we got there, we just went straight to La Santa. It must have been 12 foot. 15 foot, I don't know. And I remember it clearly. There was like the Owen twins, remember the Owen twins? They were there, and Rob Small, and some good big wave surfers of the day, and everybody was sat on the car roofs looking at how big the surf was, and nobody was going out. And then one Brazilian guy pulled a 7.6 off and literally, I don't know if you've ever been to La Santa.
No, never know.
And it went round like that, and like obviously the La Santa right was running into the left on the other side of the bay in one closeout, and he just managed to squeak out of it. And anyway, Andy Hunn, the guy who got me into surfing, he was like, well, I've come to fucking go surfing, because he was just getting divorced. I was probably part of that divorce because I was always surfing with him. And he went out, and we were like, kind of the mentality, well, if Andy's going out, we have to go out.
If he's going, I'm going.
And, I think the biggest board I had was a 610, and I remember this set coming in, and I took off on it, and literally, as I stood to my feet, threw me in the air. I think I was upside down with about 15 foot, like with my legs in the air, and I looked and my mate was inverted the other way, about 5 yards further into the point. And I remember getting ragdolled, and it was just like, it's almost having your legs and arms pulled off, rolled around, and there was 10 of those waves that hit us. I remember every one of them just rolling me onto bottom and bang, banging your head and arm. And it was like, like that Wipeout on Big Wednesday. It was like,
Yeah.
and literally it took the whole playing field out. Who paddled back out? Idiots.
Got this. I've got this.
Got this, yeah. Anyway, I managed to get some kind of inside sort of that ran off the middle, do you know what I mean? As I was paddling in, and I got a barrel on it. Like really out of control,
Yeah.
And I remember getting to the Santa Sports Complex that night, and I was telling all these pretty European class surfers how to ride how to ride La Santa Point in a drunken stupor,
Yeah.
So and that was a big wake up call. And then years later, we used to go to Ireland every year, some of the boys, and we stayed at the I don't know if you know the Eastskey area very well, but as you drive down to Eastskey, and the Eastskey left's on your left hand side, Eastskey right's on your right hand side, and then there's a bungalow, one on its own, and we rented that, and it was basically full of water, and we got it cheap, but you could see the right and left out the kitchen window. And we'd been surfing Eastskey right all morning. It was like 6 foot, perfect.
Right.
And I'd come back in, and I looked out the window about an hour and a half later, and there's nobody there. Everybody's got out. And I was like, look at it. I have to go back in. And I went back in, and went paddle out on my own. And then where the right is there, you've obviously got a wave. I think they call it mini mundakas there. And there was like, because it was super low tide, there was this like ledge breaking in between them that was just sucking its knackers off, and barreling and spitting. And I was like, I'll give that a go. And I paddled into that too lazily, thinking, because I've been surfing all week.
Yeah.
And it literally launched me into air, and I just like airdropped I should have jumped off. I landed on the flat and totally gated myself. My leg just went like that, and my knee just went down, totally dislocated and smashed into my board. It felt like somebody actually ripped it off, you know what I mean, with a vice, and there was nobody there, and I had to get back in, and I couldn't even move. So I got back in, and then years later, 5 knee surgeries later, and luckily I managed to get to see a specialist who did a lot of, sort of cut some of my femur off and microfractured under my kneecap and stuff like that. So, and I always wear a carbon fiber knee brace every time I surf.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty horrific to me.
Yeah, because I've literally got no medial ligament left. But he couldn't. Specialist said he could rethread my medial ligament, but it would pull my knee back to where it was. And he said that track has long gone.
Yeah.
It's all been chipped away. He said so. You'll have a limp for the rest of your life. So that helps with the support. And touch wood, I've twinged it a little bit when I've had it on, but it's kept me in the water, and that was got to be 20 years ago.
So it's not affected your surfing. You can still surf.
I would never know because I've always worn it, and I forgot what it's like to not surf without it.
Okay.
I think it affects small wave surfing.
Yeah, right.
Because it's lightweight, but it's reasonably bulky, and when you're trying to, when there's not a lot of power there, and you're trying to
you
force
for
yourself
it.
trying to flick your legs underneath you quickly. It is, you haven't got total movement there. That
No,
you
for
didn't
sure.
have it on. Doesn't seem to bother you that much when it gets bigger because there's more time and there's powers there.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then the other one, the one that really frightened me was at Staithes. Been surfing the Cove. I think it was like a 6.3 low tide, one of the biggest lows of the year, and it used to be a real tight pack up there.
Yeah.
Quite hassly. I imagine it still is. I don't go up very often. And this set came in, and I just paddled for it. And I was halfway down the wave, and I was like, I am in for the barrel of my life, until I saw the rock shelf come out. And the whole shelf came out about 3 feet away from me, actually out of the water, and you're surfing a head and a half double overhead wave with the rock shelf about a foot from you. And it picked me up, dumped me over the first time, then it picked me over again, and it drove me and landed on my coccyx on the reef. I couldn't see out my eyes for nearly 30 seconds. I couldn't move my bottom half of my body. I was hanging onto my board, literally screaming, not knowing. And one of my friends, Steve Crawford, the surfer I was talking about, he came and pushed me in, and I was in agony. And it put me out, though, and I should have had it x-rayed. I'm pretty sure I did crack something.
Yeah.
But I was out of the water for 3 months.
Fucking hell. Did you have some crisps after to get your vision back?
No, but somebody, luckily, I've never been a dope smoker, do you know what I mean? But somebody in the van had some grass, and I remember getting on the pipe just to take the pain away because it was absolute agony. I had something like 3 sulfidines and a couple of puffs on this pipe.
But here's what I say about crisps is we had someone else sat in that very seat you're sat in who said they went blind surfing and they had some crisps and their vision came back.
Wow.
Really odd. That's medicinal.
Yeah. But I think what I'd done, I'd just impacted so hard that it just sent a...
You can break your coccyx. Like, that sounds about sort of right, about 3 months for it to...
Oh, it's agony, man.
Yeah.
Every time you'd bend down, you'd go, and you'd go, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, sounds like a broken coccyx.
And last question. This is one we've added in recently.
We've had worse. We didn't do best.
Oh, we didn't do best. No,
we didn't do best.
Yeah, we didn't get best waves. Yeah,
best waves or sessions.
Best sessions. Well, I'll have to say Sultans at the Maldives. I was talking about it earlier because that was just amazing. It was like I had a couple of waves and getting barrel off takeoff, and then it let up, and then the whole inside, and you may get barrel for like 40 or 50 yards, and like almost like those feather-like barrels you see on the videos that you don't think exist, but they actually do. And that session was amazing, as were many that holiday. One of the more trips. The trip that stands out is years ago. I'm probably thinking, I don't know how many years ago it was, maybe 25 years ago. Del Boy, he got his first flash 6-berth camper van. And he said, do you want to go up to Thurso? And it was February. And we looked at the chart, and I remember everybody going, I don't know what you're going up there for. And there was this dirty grey, like 949 low. And it just showed you gale force winds, and Del was like, oh, it'll be all right, it might pass. And like everybody was just laughing at us why the hell we were going. Anyway, we drove that night and we appeared, at dawn in the morning, and the low had gone up. There was no wind, and we surfed Thurso East every day for 9 days, and it did not drop below 8 foot. And Del Boy, being the hell charger he is, I had a short board, a 610 and a 7.4, Still got the 7.4 upstairs, actually. And we got there on the Thursday, and the swell was about 12 foot.
Yeah.
And it was coming out of the west, so perfect hollow swell direction, but the wind was 35 miles an hour offshore. So you're talking like house-size waves, and I just looked at Del and I said, I don't think my 7.4's going to scratch that because it's quite a narrow,
Right.
And so he gets down and he opens the hatch where he keeps his boards, and he said, oh, you can borrow my 8.2. I've got an 8.6 under here. And I was like, what? I thought I'd get out of that session.
I don't want to break it.
So we went out on that session, and I think I had 9 waves that day, and I made every one. And every one of them was 3 times overhead, maybe bigger. Blind takeoff, couldn't see a thing. And you literally didn't know if you'd made it till you got to the bottom. And you would just do one big turn like that, just sit in the pocket or the barrel or whatever. And then you'd done the whole length of Thurso East in one turn, and just a pull up, that was it.
I mean, that sounds amazing. That's not for me, but that
sounds
amazing.
Frightening.
Yeah.
And when we got out, there used to be a guy called Neil Harris who lived in Thurso, who was like the king of Thurso East, who kind of just ruled the roost. And his ex-girlfriend, I think she knew Del Boy, and I kind of thought it was one of the nicest compliments she ever said. She went, "You look darn comfy out there, boys."
It's like
Do you know what I
from a
mean?
movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks, yeah." I was absolutely cacking myself the whole time, but yeah, I made it work. So loads of sessions everywhere, really. And I love surfing Caton Point when it's on. It's one of my favourite waves. Some of the reefs around here are really good. But yeah, I just like surfing with my friends now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, There's a
Yeah,
lot to
you
be said
know,
for that.
you can go away. I can go and see my parents in Tenerife and get really good surf in the Canaries and stuff. But you don't know anybody. Everybody's gobby, and I kind of look at it now as a holiday, and I'll take my board, and if I can get a few waves, that's fine. But I haven't been on a real designated surf trip for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
But I would like to. But then again, I've got a 3-year-old daughter now, so you know, life. We're off to Greece in 2 weeks. But it's funny enough, we're off to Greece, and I looked, and we're actually staying on one of the surf beaches.
Oh, that's a coincidence.
So no, my missus booked it. My missus surfs as well.
Okay.
Sharon, my girlfriend surfs. So yeah, it'll be. I'm not going to take my stuff, but it'd be quite nice to get there and to see. The culture of the place and stuff like that.
So last question. We've included this recently, actually, because I think it's an interesting topic. And actually, you sound like a great person to ask this, because you're clearly a well-established surfer, and you're obviously super comfortable in your own ability and some of these waves you've spoken about. So let's go. Let's say I'm 6 foot. Okay, I've just completed a bottom turn, and I'm just trimming along a wave, right? But I'm right at the bottom of the wave. My board is at the trough. And I'm stood up super tall because I've got super shit technique. The top of the wave is literally in line with the top of my head. In feet, how big is that wave to you?
3 foot.
This is the thing. See, to most people, that would be a 6 foot wave because they're stood 6 foot. But a lot of people also say 3 foot.
I think I would say 3 foot. I would say head high. Generally, I would try and measure the size of the actual swell before it peaks and breaks. So when you're looking at a line, say 40, 50 yards before you, that 6 to 8 foot wave when it breaks is probably a 5 foot swell. It just, when it feels the bottom, it's going to go more, you know. I don't agree with measuring it from the bottom and stuff like that, but I do think that, all right, it's overhead. It's a head and a half. It's double overhead. It's treble overhead. Is a good way of...
That works much better. And
is
I
a
will
way of
always
thinking
refer to it as a body height.
So
for that
I would
reason.
probably, if somebody asked me what the surf was like yesterday, I'd probably say 6 to 8 foot, and then I'd probably go, it was double overhead and bigger sets.
Yeah. What, here?
Yeah.
We didn't see it yesterday. I don't know what it was like.
Oh, not yesterday. I'm just using that
sorry,
as a... Yeah.
I thought you meant we'd miss something because we were super disappointed
no.
today. But it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because it's that thing
sure.
where, you know, everyone's obviously got different friend groups in surfing, and I would know if Pete said 3 foot, I would know what he means, or if my mate Swanee said 3 foot, I would know what he means, and actually they would be such a different
And
height.
somebody who over exaggerates the size, and when they say it's 2 foot, you know to stay in bed, don't you? It's actually 2 foot underhead.
Yeah, see, to me, I'd be like, it's like, that's a 2 foot wave. That waist to chest is 3 to 5 foot wave. Anything above my head, 6 foot and plus, 6, 8 foot, whatever. That's how I'd measure a wave.
Yeah. I had a funny experience talking about, we were in Bali once, and Paul Anderton, he'd gone to check the surf, and he came back and he went, it's really big, it's really big. Should we go to Airport Right? So everybody packs the guns.
Right.
I packed my 7.4, which is the biggest board I've generally owned, you know. And we get down to Airport Right, so we paddled out, and it's about 2 foot. So I'm on this 7.6, like diamond pintail, you know, in this gutless surf. And it was just hopeless. You couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said to him, I'm just going to leather bag it in the channel. And I paddled out about 50 yards out, and I was just lying on my board, sunbathing like that. And I could hear this shouting. And I looked up, and this freak set had come from nowhere, absolute nowhere, probably about 4 or 5 foot. And I was in perfect position for it because I was so far out. I was on this massive board. And as I was paddling, you could see all the locals coming up, going, screaming. And I remember just dropping down. It was really fun. I dropped down, and I couldn't really do much on it apart from just turn it like that. And I pulled in and like I just got this hell barrel. The guy who tried to drop into me was sucked straight over the falls. I came out and there was another guy paddling. I pulled into the next one and the other guy got sucked over the fall. And then the third one I pulled over and somebody else went over my head and I was like,
the surf gods were on your side.
I was
that
like,
day.
yeah, the day was smiling at me, you know, and
Then
it was
you're
worth
like that,
it.
quick paddling, quick
Yeah,
out there.
It was worth it for that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
brilliant.
man.
Well, we've got firstly, massive thank you for hosting us here at Secret
No problem, yeah.
Spot Surf Shop, and a massive shout to Tomo as well. We've recorded 2 episodes in here, and if you wanted to tell people where to find you and where to find the shop online and on Instagram, etc.
Yeah, well, it's 35 years Secret Spot this year, September, so we may be doing something, so keep checking our Instagram posts. You know, we're on Instagram, obviously Facebook, the usual social media portals. I'm here all the time. If anybody wants any advice, I think I give pretty decent advice.
Not before 10 o'clock, though.
Not before 10 o'clock. I won't be here. And not generally after 5:25 either. Yeah, so we're still here, you know, supplying. We sell stuff everywhere, send stuff everywhere now. So Europe and, you know,
You've got
all
an
over
online
England.
shop as well, is there?
Yeah,
Online
we've
shop,
we've got quite a big online presence now. So and we like to think as well that, you know, I guess sometimes when you're in Cornwall and stuff, you've got that shop that sells O'Neill and that shop that sells Quicksilver and that shop that, you know, I think we've been here that long and been established. We've got a pretty free reign of what we believe is the best product.
Yeah. And whereabouts is the shop if anyone wants to find it?
The shop is on. The address is 4 Pavilion Terrace, Scarborough, YO11 2JU, I believe the postcode is. And it's on the north side of the Valley Bridge. So you see the bridge, I don't know if you can see it from here, guys. It's got the sort of metal arches, because obviously it's famous as a suicide bridge.
All right, okay.
So,
Nice.
And we're just on that corner there, so just slightly out of town.
If you're coming here for a bacon roll, you're 25 years too late.
Yes.
You might get a Kit Kat.
You won't get a Kit Kat, no.
Yeah, you won't get a Kit Kat.
Bring your own Kit Kats as well, so. But don't touch your clothes with Kit Kat fingers.
Yeah. So, all good, yeah. We're always open. We do close on a Wednesday. So that's the only day we close, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, just here for your general needs and boards and any advice you want.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. Cheers,
Brilliant.
buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Keep the stoke.
Well, cheers for that, Secret Scott from Secret Spot. Man, I know I said it before, but I think I might have found the Swanee of the North.
Yeah. It like stories and like, you know, how he ended up in that position and where he got to how he got there. It's one of those guys, like, you know, like you said, like Swanee, right? Once you start him talking and get him onto those subjects, you could just go for days and
it's
days.
just like scratching the surface and then over to you, and they just take it away, which is exactly what happened. So it was really cool. And the shop as well. We should say the shop.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's almost odd because it's, you know, Scarborough. So if you don't know Scarborough, it's obviously a town, but it's got two main beaches, 2 surf spots, and but this shop isn't anywhere near either. It's way up the hill in the town sort of centre area-ish. So you wouldn't, as a surfer, you probably wouldn't stumble across it by chance if you were a travelling surfer. But it's such a cool shop. And I think when we went in, like you were in your element, like it was skateboards and thrasher and all the sort of, I guess, the stuff of your generation and era of a skateboardist. Way out of my league. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to skateboarding, but you certainly were in your element.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Like the shop that's so kitted out. Like it's one of those. It's like, I think if you went into a surf shop and that was the first surf shop you ever went into, you'd be blown away, and like, you'd go into other surf shops and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
The other thing as well is the chair that Scott was on, and also John Pease. Like I watched it back again on the video, and it reminded me when we were there. Because I think you had a comfier chair than me, and I was resting on like a tripod or something. I don't know what I was sat on, but I was just like, "That's the chair I need to be sat in right now." That's all I was thinking the whole time.
Well, yeah, got nothing from him, but he's just chair envy. That was it, was it?
Chair envy, chair envy. And we didn't get a surf, which was devastating. It was howling wind
It was.
when we were there.
And the other beach was completely flat, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, that's right. One side was flat and one side was just completely blown out by... It was brutal wind as well, but it kind of sums up the two spots. Even though they're right next to each other, you do kind of get two very different beaches on the right day or the wrong day, depending on how you look at it.
I think that was one, like, we hadn't surfed for a few days and we were like, can we surf that? Should we get in? And like, I'm in an hour in, and then we both in the end just like, there's not even any point. It's just absolutely howling. It's messy. It's like, we would have just got the shit kicked out of us in there.
And have you had any surf since we last had a chat?
So, this is now going to be called the No Surf UK show.
The non-surf.
It's been so shit. I mean, I've seen there's been a couple of days down in Cornwall. It's just, and with summer holidays and that, I don't want to sit in the car all day and travel to Cornwall, because that's what it's going to be, like one way or the other. Like even round this area, like I drive over the motorway bridge, like for work and stuff all the time, and it's just been like gridlocked nearly every day. It's just like traffic, and I'm just like, I'm not going down there just for that. If it's just like one day or something like that. And to be honest, all the other, like everything I've seen forecast wise, everyone said the same. Like even Leighton, I saw Leighton the other day, and even he said to me, right, I have been checking the surf forecast, so if we could go one evening, he said every time I check it, it's just been shit all summer.
Yeah,
and
I think I've heard that Cornwall's had some waves, and am I happy for you? I think so. But I'm
You're not happy for me.
genuinely threaders with it. Like I can't. Well, I've had one Monday, which was like 3 weeks ago or whatever it was when this comes out, probably longer. And man, so it's just as well that, well, as of yesterday when we record this, and that might give a little insight into how prepared we are for recording our episode intros and outros. The only time we've done it in advance for a long time.
Not the fact that we've lost weekends because you're like, oh yeah, we record it on Thursday or Friday, and I'm like, yeah, but the episode comes out Sunday, and now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, now I've got another job as well full time. I need my weekends.
It does keep happening. So it's just as well that Lost Shore Surf Resort has gone live with bookings to the general public. So I have something to at least look forward to. If there isn't a surf landing around my area before the 30th of October, which is where we've opened the booking slots from, but we've not set an opening date yet. We expect it will be earlier than that. We'll shift everything left and you can book in before that, right? So I've now got something to look forward to. And if you asked me this, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, would I be planning over a month out from a next surf? I would have been like, no chance. There'll be something here next week. But it's been, I think I've had 2 sessions in something like 6 weeks. So actually planning out for a month and a half from now or whatever it is doesn't seem that bad a plan. And I know it's going to be on tap.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's going to be a nice thing of being able to like go to work and have the option to jump in on a session as well.
Oh man,
every day.
I cannot wait. Like, forget like even from a Lost Shores perspective, and that's my job and all that sort of stuff. As a selfish surfer, just to know I've got a wave when I need it. When I want it, or when we have a dry spell or not. I just, like you said, the ability to just go. That's quite a nice thought.
Do you know what will be really interesting to see actually from this point of view? I know you've surfed like at the wave a few times, so you've done that. But how your view will change of like wave pools and surfing in the ocean, whereas presumably you'll be surfing in a wave pool more than you'll be surfing in the ocean because you'll be there and you'll get to surf there more. If you're, I can't think what the word is off the top of my head, it's gone blank, like perception of like surfing in the ocean to surfing in a wave pool, where you'll have that guaranteed consistency all the time that you could surf.
Yeah.
and then you'd go to surf in the ocean, and it'd be like
it's a
bit
funny
shit,
conversation, you know,
yeah.
because I was actually chatting about something similar today with Ali, who's been on the show before that I work with.
Alejandro.
And the thing is, we're not trying to. Well, firstly, we're not trying to replace the ocean. But the ocean, well, certainly for me, and I imagine most people I speak to, the ocean's always going to be your first port of call. Like, I'm always going to prefer surfing in the ocean because I think there's something to be said for having to read waves, for misreading a wave, for getting it wrong, for thinking it's right or thinking it's not the right one, then it is. Like, there's so much learning in there, but that also makes that one wave. That's what makes that one wave, when you get it, you know, the one, so much more epic and memorable because you've almost created all of it. Admittedly, the wave's probably just done it and you've got lucky because you took off on it. But you've done most of the work. You've read it, you've realised that's the one, and you go and then you make it happen. Now, whilst it's an absolute dream, obviously, to have perfect waves on tap all day long, I'm still going to go and just be in the ocean. Absolutely, when I can.
Yeah, I just wondered if your perception would change because you'll presumably be surfing more of a perfect wave continuously, like back to back to back to back to back of perfect waves, and then you'll go into the ocean, and it will be that difference of it'll be a bit fickle or it'll be a bit heavy or a bit, you know, it's going to be different. And I wonder if, like, I suppose it's impossible to say until like you've been there for a while and like you've surfed so much they've sacked you because you spend more time surfing than working, that you've got that your perceptional shift of what you think of, like, you know, you go out in the ocean and you're like, you know, like, for example, if you've had a perfect day surfing or a few really good days surfing and the waves have been amazing, and then you go that following day and the waves are a bit shit and you're like, oh, it's fucking shit, like, but because you'll be surfing those perfect waves all the time, you might go in the ocean and go, oh, this is a bit shit, you know.
Do you know what? I completely hear you, but I guess the counter is that I have spent 10 years surfing shit dross, so I'm so conditioned to it. I think even if that was to be the case, it would take a long time for that to even start creeping in.
No, I just wondered as in general. I mean, I wonder if, like, people out there that listen, if your surfing has changed, if you, like, used to surf the ocean all the time, and since, like, say you're down this way and you go to the wave all the time now, do you surf the wave more than you surf the ocean now? Because you get that consistency. And I mean, for a lot of people, it's more than the money, it's time, you know, because it's time spent when you, like, should be working or should be doing something else. Whereas if you're near Bristol and you can go, right, actually I can just pop half an hour there, surf, half an hour back, 2 hours, 3 hours gone, and I can get back to work and do everything. Whereas if you're near Bristol, you go any further, like if you start going to Devon, you're taking 2 hours each way anyway, plus your time surfing, you know, your full day's gone. So I wonder if there's people that shifted and they now surf wave pools more than they surf the ocean.
I think there's a lot of interesting potential case studies to be done, and actually having, you know, Surf Lab is this just amazing function and collab that we're able to test. I'm not saying that's the thing, but, you know, the idea is that we can test or assess or collect data and understand this stuff, because there's a lot in there, isn't there? And also, I still love the idea of, you know,
it's like it's his own episode.
Yeah, I know. But I still love the idea of knowing that, you know, because for me, I'm a very kinesthetic learner, so I have to be able to do it, see it, touch it, sort of thing, to be able to then go on and refine it. So, you know, if I'm able to crack a really nice top turn on a perfect wave, obviously it's a lot harder on it's like you said, sloppy, choppy, weak, fickle, all that sort of stuff. But I now know I can do it. Yeah. I know I can physically do it. It may be a little bit harder, but I know I've got the technical ability. There's more steps within it to get to that. But that's, for me, that is a really interesting case study to see where that goes. So anyway, that's my next surf. Hopefully there's something before it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there is. Hopefully there's something down here as well that's worth going down for. Otherwise I might be going to a wave garden as well. So
yes,
because it seems to have been ages. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I know we went off on one, but thanks Scott for like hosting us for that day, and Secret Spot for hosting us. And it was a great chat. It was. I don't know if I can say anything about any of the stories that he said that would give it justice to what he said. Anyway, it was just a fun episode, and he was a good laugh, nice chap.
Yeah, really good bloke, and we definitely didn't have to delete any stories from the episode, so we'll leave that there. And Pete's going to read you out your discount codes.
Yeah, so if you want 10% off Surface, use the discount code UK Surf Show 24, and that will get you 10% off anything you order from Surface Wetsuits.
And if you want 10% off molded earplugs, use the discount code UK Surf Show 2024, and that will get you 10% off at molded earplugs.
Yep, and Cookville Clothing, if you want 10% off there, use UK Surf Show 10, and that will get you 10% off from Cookville Clothing.
And Alan,
recommended.
Biscuit Arms Adrenaline Athlete is very much back on the scene. We've probably still got a discount code somewhere, but if you are interested in getting surf fit, getting conditioned and all that good stuff, hit him up on Instagram as Adrenaline Athlete.
Yeah, cool. I think that's it. And then next time we'll be doing either someone else or you and me. I can't remember what it is because we're too far ahead now. So, yeah.
So organised.
Yeah, so organised. We're too far ahead organised. But yeah, and then start getting your ideas in for the Devon trip as well.
Yes.
People to speak to. Who should we talk to? We're going to be around Croyd, Woolacombe, Saunton, Westward Ho, that side of Devon, North Devon we'll be staying. I suppose we can pop over to the south coast. I know we've already got one to speak to over there, so it's a little bit of a drive, but we'll pop over and say hello to anyone over there. So if there's anyone in the south coast you think of Devon, let us know. That's it, innit?
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.